Oh, Oswald, you just never learn. Gotham! This video going up a little bit later in the day than was originally planned, but I am recovering from a bit of an insane weekend. Insane in a good way. It was at the Vermont Burlesque Festival. But yeah, that was long, and then had to drive back in an immense snowstorm and deal with the snow once I got back. So yeah, running a little behind, but still got to go out on the same day as originally planned. In any case, we are up to episode 3 of season 5, the final season of Gotham. So, what have we got here? Well, I mentioned him at the top. Why don't we start with Oswald? Now, initially, I was kind of a little bit, and like I've talked about this before, that I've been kind of irritated with the pattern of what they've done with Oswald, which is that he claws his way to the top, he tumbles back down, claws his way to the top, tumbles back down, top down, top down. And that was starting to annoy me, and it was beginning to here in this season as well. But for some reason, something clicked in my head that didn't fully click before. And that's not to say that they didn't bring it across, just for some reason I didn't connect the dots. Oswald's problem is he's a conqueror, not a ruler. He doesn't know how to change tactics once his ruthlessness has gotten him into a position of power. He doesn't understand that you have to then shift gears into another mode of being in order to maintain that power. If you try and rule the same way you conquered, well, exactly what happened here is what's going to happen, which is that your people are going to revolt and no one's going to back you. And I think maybe the reason it didn't click for me before was because at least I don't remember the sort of mass exodus of the people who are supposedly supporting him happening before. Like, it had been, here and there, issues with Butch, things like that. But I think having it happen en masse like this really, and it not being a case of like, oh, well, they were offered better, whatever from another gang boss, a better cut or what have you. But having it people who are already desperate, and going into a situation that is only maybe slightly better than the one he's offering, and that he's going to be very ticked at them for, but they do it anyway, really kind of finally hammered it home, like, oh, you just don't know how to be at the top, do you? You know how to get there. You don't know how to be there. We got a few more little bits with the dog, which I quite liked. I did also like that Oswald seemed genuinely torn up at sort of his main guy getting killed, even after that guy had abandoned him. I thought that was a nice touch, because as much as Oswald doesn't value people generally, if he's going to lose them, he wants it to be on his terms and at his call. And when it happened when he wasn't prepared to, he gets upset, including in slightly more emotional ways than you would call from him. So that was pretty cool. What's going on with Selina is actually working for me pretty well. Unless something happens that forces me to accept it, I'm kind of going to headcanon it that the thing that Ivy gave Bruce just healed her and didn't do anything about changing her personality or bringing out her darkness. Because I feel like everything she's doing is totally viable just on the basis of, look, trying to be nice got me paralyzed and almost killed. Screw that. So that's my headcanon right now. And watching her unleash, watching her basically say, to heck with your rules, Bruce, they don't help, and watch her go down this darker path, I think is working well and didn't need that stupid justification. So that's my headcanon, unless something happens in the show that forces me to not be able to thread that needle. But she's working pretty well for me. They're doing an interesting job of building up Jeremiah, because this is now 3 episodes in. He had his debut last season. He and his actions are a big part of why we're even in this situation, yet he is so far not present. And it's doing a decent job of making me want to see him, which is actually fairly impressive, because I'm not a huge fan of Jeremiah. I like Jerome much, much better. But the way that they're teasing his return is making me more excited for when that happens. So there's a tactic that's working. that's cool. So we've now got with the character Echo, who has appeared before, but she is now being positioned pretty firmly as a Harley Quinn analog, which disappoints me slightly because if we were gonna go for a full-on Harley Quinn analog, I really would have liked Lori Petty's character from season 2 to come back. Like, I like Lori Petty anyway, and I really did love that character, and I think that's still my favorite episode of the show, the one she was in. But setting that aside, sort of my own personal preference of, oh, it's not what I wish it was, and sort of taking it on board for what it is, yeah, pretty interesting. I like that, at least the vibe that I get off her is there is that obsession with Jeremiah. There is obviously that ruthlessness and that craziness. But at least as presented here, she feels like she has a fair amount of agency, which is what I prefer for Harley. One of the things that really ticked me off about the New 52 version of Harley, which is also what they ended up doing for the Suicide Squad movie, was that she did fall in love with the Joker and she did help him, but sort of what pushed her over the edge was him tossing her into a vat of chemicals like he was. And I don't like, I accept that the Joker drives her nuts, but I still want the choices she makes to be her choices. So I've always preferred original origin for Harley. And I'm okay with this one too, because what it feels like is she knows Jeremiah, she kind of worships Jeremiah, but I don't get the feeling like he's directly telling her that what she's doing in this episode in terms of the sort of weird church culty thing with the Russian roulette and with everything else. Like, I don't get the feeling that she's doing this on his instruction. I feel like she's doing this because she thinks that's the kind of thing he would like, which is, again, what I like for Harley. Like, her going to these extremes and doing these bizarre and awful things, thinking it'll impress somebody who doesn't give a crap about her. And I'm getting that sort of general vibe while it's still being very Gotham. And I think that's pretty cool. I was surprised how much I liked that because I had forgotten, because I haven't been keeping up. Since I already knew this was last season, I hadn't been keeping up too much with the production as it was going on. I did hear that there was going to be some kind of Harley Quinn character in, but I'd forgotten about that. And seeing this play out was actually pretty nice. And I liked it quite a bit. I was surprised because even though I had kind of forgotten that it was going to happen, thinking back on it now, I do remember first hearing, yeah, we'll have a Harley Quinn kind of character. I remember thinking, oh, do we have to? And part of that might just be the character's overexposure at this point because DC slaps her into everything. But that said, this is a pretty decent take, and definitely fits the world that we've got. So yeah, I'm digging all this. I like this. This felt like a better progression of the overall story and of shifting the dynamics of the characters than the previous episode. The previous episode had felt a little bit wheel spinny. This one does not. This one feels like things moving forward. Like pieces are moving so that we're actually going to progress the story. I'm not sure how much of the story actually got moved forward in this one, but what we saw was either new or was sort of solidifying things that were hinted at before. Like with Selena. Like we knew she was going to go darker. How's it going to manifest? Oh, by being more violent, by taking bigger risks. That's how it's going to manifest. Cool. So it's sort of filling in the details for the stuff that had been kind of laid out in the last episode or two. And now we're sort of getting into the nitty-gritty of that. And that's working pretty well for me. And then big building explosion at the end. Yeah, again, that's Gotham for you. Things don't seem exciting enough? Blow it up! So I'll be interested to see next week's how that goes. So Gotham, episode 3 of season 5. You seen it? What'd you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments and let's talk about it. Whole bunch of stuff down there besides, because there's buttons and there's links and there's merch and there's a link to my Patreon if you feel like supporting me that way, which would be awesome. But you know what? There's a link to a whole bunch of other stuff besides that. There's my P.O. box. Check it all out, or don't check any of it out if you don't want to, because you know what? At the end of the day, you're the council. I'm just running the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned.